The officers stepped out of the car, their boots crunching against the gravel like the first warning shots of a battle I never asked for. One of them adjusted his belt with the casual authority of a man who'd seen too many domestic disputes, glancing at me with the kind of suspicion reserved for strangers in the wrong zip code. The other stood rigid, ear tilted toward the woman's shrill accusations that sliced through the evening air like shrapnel. "He broke into my property," she cried, clutching the fence with white-knuckled desperation, as if she were the one under siege. "We were terrified when he showed up uninvited." I wanted to laugh, God, I wanted to laugh, but my anger was a living thing, coiled tight in my chest, keeping any sound buried deep. My property. This cabin had been mine for 8 years. Every nail hammered at 2 a.m. after a 12-hour shift. Every board planed smooth by hands that still carried scars from Fallujah. Every tree out front planted the day I came home from my last tour, promising myself I'd never leave again. Yet here I was, standing outside my own door like a trespasser, treated like a ghost in my own life. The party guests, 30 of them, maybe more, formed a loose semicircle on the deck, champagne flutes glinting under string lights that I had strung myself. Whispers slithered between them like snakes in tall grass. Some were already recording on their phones, thumbs hovering over share buttons, waiting for the moment I'd be dragged away in cuffs. My hands trembled slightly as I reached for my wallet, not from fear of the cops, but from the raw humiliation of performing innocence on land I'd bled for. The woman leaned toward the officers, lowering her voice to that conspiratorial hiss that always sounded like a threat. "I told you he's been hanging around here before. He's dangerous. Please get him out." That was the moment my patience snapped, not with a bang, but with the quiet click of a safety coming off. I handed over my ID, staring directly into her eyes, letting her see the storm she'd invited. "You sure you want them to run my name?" For the first time, she blinked. Her confident smirk faltered like a bad signal, static where there should have been triumph. She didn't know my background. She didn't know what would surface when the officers typed my details into their system. And when they did, the night was about to flip on its axis. Welcome to the Jones life stories ***, where the underdog doesn't just survive, he reclaims everything with cold, calculated precision. If this hook has your pulse racing, smash that like *** button, *** subscribe *** for more real-life revenge served ice cold, and let's watch a fake queen fall. The officer held my license under the fatting afternoon sun, squinting at the details as if they were written in a foreign language. His partner typed into the tablet mounted on the squad car, the screen's glow casting blue shadows across his face. The woman crossed her arms with a smug grin that could curdle milk, whispering to one of her guests loud enough for the wind to carry it. "Finally, this creep is getting hauled off." Seconds ticked by like grenades with pulled pins. The guests chuckled, lifting their glasses again like this was intermission entertainment at the theater. My fists tightened until knuckles went white, but I forced myself to stay calm. I'd learned long ago in the desert, never explode too early. Let them dig their own grave first, then push. The officer looked up, confusion flashing across his face like lightning. He turned the screen toward his partner, and they exchanged a look that said this just got complicated. "Sir," the taller cop said, his voice shifting from authority to something almost respectful. "It says here you're the registered owner of this cabin." The table went silent so fast you could hear the lake lapping against the dock. The smug laughter froze in throats, champagne bubbles popping like tiny gunshots. The woman's eyes widened, but she recovered with the speed of a cornered animal, pushing a fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, no, that can't be right. You must have the wrong record. I'm with the Homeowners Association, and this property falls under our * rules." Her words made my blood boil hotter than any IED I'd ever disarmed. I had no HOA. I made damn sure of that when I bought this land, paid cash, no liens, no covenants, no busybody with a clipboard telling me what color my shutters could be. I stepped forward, my voice calm but heavy as a rucksack full of bricks. "There is no HOA here. You forged your way onto my property and threw parties in my house while I was gone." A couple of the guests shifted uncomfortably in their deck chairs, the kind of movement that happens when the script flips and you realize you're the villain. One woman in a floral sundress muttered, "Wait, you mean this isn't your place?" The Karen's face turned the color of overripe tomatoes, her mask cracking like cheap plaster. "Don't believe him." she screamed, voice pitching into hysteria. He's dangerous. I saw him snooping around before. The shorter cop raised an eyebrow, the kind that said, "Lady, you're digging deeper." "Ma'am, he's not snooping. He's the legal owner." And then, just as her lie started to crumble like a sandcastle at high tide, another twist slammed in like a sniper round. The second officer pulled me aside, his tone low but urgent, the way you talk when you don't want the crowd to hear. "Sir, we found something else connected to your name in the system. Something she definitely doesn't know about." Her fake confidence flickered again, this time like a bulb about to burn out. She looked scared, actually scared, and it was the first honest emotion I'd seen on her all night. I tilted my head, curious despite myself. "Something else?" I asked quietly. The officer nodded, his eyes steady as a scope. "Yes, sir, military service, special operations, you're listed as decorated." The woman's smile faltered completely, her mouth hanging slightly open as the words slipped into the air like smoke from a muzzle. The guests whispered louder now, some of them leaning back in their chairs like they didn't want to be caught on the wrong side of this fight. I didn't say a word. I just let the silence do the work. It was a weapon I'd mastered in interrogations where words were currency and quiet was power. The cop continued, louder this time so everyone could hear, his voice carrying across the deck like a public service announcement. "Ma'am, you said this man was dangerous. You're right. He's dangerous to anyone breaking the law. He's a veteran and by the looks of it, the rightful property owner." Her hands shook against the fence, but she kept her chin high, desperate to cling to her role as the victim even as the ground eroded beneath her. "This is insane. He's lying to all of you. He probably faked those records. Don't you see? He's trying to take over this place." That was when I finally stepped closer, my voice steady but sharp as a Kabar through Kevlar. "Take over, lady. This is my land. You're the one throwing parties, drinking my wine, and lying to officers. You forged authority you don't have, and now you're panicking because it's catching up to you." One of the guests, the smug man who'd been laughing earlier, the one with the linen shirt and the Rolex that screamed midlife crisis, stood up, his voice uneasy as a rookie on his first patrol. "Wait, if this is his place, then what are we doing here?" The Karen spun around, snapping at him like a whip. "Shut up, don't listen to him, he's just trying to scare you." But she froze mid-sentence when the shorter cop pulled out a small folder from the squad car, the kind that holds complaints and consequences. "Funny thing, ma'am," he said, flipping it open with deliberate slowness. "We got a call earlier this week about fake HOA notices being taped on doors in this area. The description matches you to a T. Care to explain." Her face drained of color so fast I thought she might faint. For the first time, she didn't have an answer. No script, no performance, just the raw exposure of a con artist caught with marked cards. The crowd that once cheered her on now stared at her like they were seeing a criminal in plain sight, the kind of shift that happens when the emperor's new clothes turn out to be prison orange. She stammered, her hands fluttering like she was reaching for an excuse in the air but coming up empty. "That's ridiculous. Why would I waste my time putting notices on doors? I was only trying to keep the neighborhood safe." The taller officer crossed his arms, his stance widening like he was planting a flag. "Safe from what? A veteran returning to his own cabin." His words cut straight through her lies, and a couple of the guests started gathering their things, purses clutched, phones pocketed, faces flushed with the embarrassment of being duped. I let out a slow breath, the kind you take before pulling the trigger on a long shot, then reached into my bag. She flinched hard, thinking I was about to pull something dangerous. Maybe she'd seen too many movies. But all I pulled out was a black hard drive, sleek and unassuming, the kind that holds empires and ends them. I held it up between my fingers like a playing card I'd been saving for the river. "You know what this is?" I let the question hang, watching her pupils dilate. "Security footage. Every corner of this cabin is wired, motion-activated, 4K, cloud-backed. I already saw who unlocked my doors with a bump key, who poured drinks in my kitchen from my 18-year Macallan, who laughed about me, never finding out because I was still deployed." Gasps rippled through the group like a shockwave. The man with the smug grin cursed under his breath, looking away as if eye contact might implicate him. The Karen's face turned pale as chalk, her lipstick now a garish slash against ashen skin. "You're bluffing," she whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice. I smiled coldly, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Am I? Because I can play it right here for the officers. And trust me, it's not just you caught on tape. It's everyone you invited, faces, voices, timestamps, high-definition proof. The shorter cop stepped closer, his tone firm as concrete. Sir, if you're willing to hand us that footage, we can verify everything. If what you're saying is true, this crosses into trespassing, fraud, and possibly even impersonating law enforcement. The Karen's knees buckled slightly, but she gripped the table to steady herself, knuckles white as bone. She tried one last desperate move, raising her voice for the crowd in a final bid for sympathy. He's lying. He's twisting everything. You all know me. I run this neighborhood. But nobody nodded. Nobody backed her up this time. The same guests who once clapped for her like she was royalty now looked at her like she was poison ivy in human form. And that's when I leaned in, my voice low and sharp enough to cut glass. You said I don't belong here, but the truth is you're the intruder. And tonight, everyone will see you for exactly what you are. A fraud who thought a clipboard and a bad attitude could steal a soldier's home. The taller cop motioned for me to hand over the hard drive, and I did without hesitation, placing it in his palm like passing a baton in a relay I'd been running alone for months. He passed it to his partner, who plugged it into the squad cars system with the efficiency of men who'd done this 1,000 times. Within seconds, the dash screen lit up, casting a harsh white glow across the deck. The footage was crystal clear. The woman Karen M. Whitmore, according to the fake notice, unlocking my cabin door with a key she'd duplicated from God knows where, waving in her guests like it was a private club she'd founded. Come on in, darlings. The owner's some deployed loser. We've got the run of the place. Popping corks, laughter, selfies with my moose head mount as a backdrop. The gasps turned into full-on outrage, a wave of betrayal crashing over the crowd. One of the women at the table covered her mouth, eyes wide with horror. You said this was your asterisk place, she whispered to the Karen, voice trembling with disbelief. You lied to all of us. The smug man cursed again, standing so fast his chair toppled. You dragged me into this. Do you have any idea what kind of trouble this is? My wife's a lawyer. She'll have my balls for this. The Karen's eyes darted wildly, cornered animal vibes in full effect. She tried to grab a wine glass to look casual, but her hands trembled too much, and it shattered against the deck, red wine spilling like blood across the wood I'd sanded myself. This doesn't prove anything, she shrieked, voice climbing octaves as panic set in. That footage could be fake, deep fake, AI, you can't trust it. But then the recording shifted to another angle, front door camera, time-stamped 3 days ago. Her tapping a bright orange HOA notice on my door, the kind with official-looking seals she'd probably printed at Kinko. Signing it with a flourish. President Karen M. Whitmore, Lakeview Estates HOA. The officers froze the frame, zooming in on her handwriting, the loop of the Y in Whitmore as unique as a fingerprint. The shorter cop turned toward her, voice cold as a morgue slab. Ma'am, this is beyond a neighborhood dispute. This is forgery and trespassing. And if you've been collecting money or favors from these people under false authority, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. One of the guests snapped bitterly, throwing down his napkin like a gauntlet. She conned all of us. Charged $500 each for exclusive lake access and community events. Another voice piped up from the back. I paid for a security patrol that never showed. The Karen backed away, shaking her head violently, blonde hair coming loose from its perfect bun. No, you can't do this. You don't understand. I was protecting this community from outsiders. But the flashing red and blue lights reflected in her wide, terrified eyes as the officers moved in, their movements synchronized like a well-practiced takedown. And for the first time since I stepped back onto my land, I finally felt the tide turning, not with chaos, but with the inexorable pull of truth. I crossed my arms and whispered just loud enough for her to hear over the growing chaos. Game! Over. The officers closed in, their radios crackling with codes I knew by heart from another life. One reached for his cuffs, the metal glinting under the string lights. But the Karen suddenly bolted toward the dock, heels clattering against the wood like machine gun fire on a bad day. The guests gasped, some shouting for her to stop, others too stunned to move. She glanced back once, her face twisted with desperation, mascara running in black rivers down her cheeks. You'll regret this. You don't know who I am. I stepped forward, my voice steady as the lake at dawn. We know Österusk exactly who you are, a liar who thought she could play God with a veteran's home. The shorter cop caught up to her halfway down the dock, his hand clamping on her wrist like a bear trap. She tried to twist free, nails scratching at his sleeve, but when his grip locked and the cuffs came out, the fight drained from her body like air from a punctured lung. The clink of the cuffs echoed over the water, final as a gavel in a courtroom. The guests stood frozen, ashamed, some already walking away quietly with their tails between their legs. The smug man muttered, "Unbelievable. She made us part of this mess," before storming off toward his Tesla, tires spitting gravel as he peeled out. I walked past the broken glass and spilled wine up the steps of my own porch, my boots feeling heavier with every step, not from fear anymore, but from the weight of reclaiming what was mine, inch by inch, memory by memory. A taller cop turned to me, his voice firm but respectful, the kind reserved for someone who'd earned it the hard way. "Sir, we'll need you to come down tomorrow to file an official statement, but tonight she's not coming back here." For the first time all evening, I allowed myself a small smile, the kind that comes after the mission's complete and the dust settles. That's all I wanted, my home back. The Karen thrashed one last time in the backseat, screaming at the officers through the window. "This isn't over. I'll sue him. I'll sue all Österusk of you. My brother-in-law's a judge." But her voice cracked under the flashing lights, and no one believed her anymore. Not the cops, not the guests, not even the crickets chirping in the trees. As the patrol car door slammed shut with the finality of a coffin lid, I stood on the porch and let out a long breath, the kind you hold for 14 months and forget how to release. The cabin was quiet again, except for the soft sound of the lake against the shore and the distant hum of the squad car fading into the night. I looked at the crowd dispersing, some sneaking glances back, others hurrying to their cars like they couldn't escape fast enough, and said one final line that carried across the yard on the evening breeze. "I didn't fight for this country to be told I can't step foot on my own land." The patrol car rolled away, its lights fading into the trees like dying embers, leaving only the hum of crickets and the soft glow of my porch lantern, the one I'd installed the week I moved in, promising myself this would be my forever. I stood there, taking in the silence that finally belonged to me again. The table sat abandoned, half-empty glasses catching the moonlight, broken bottles and lies scattered across the wood like battlefield debris. For a moment, I just looked at it all and let the anger drain out of me, slow as sand through an hourglass. One of the neighbors who had stayed behind, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a face lined by too many Wisconsin winters, stepped closer, her voice low but sincere. "We're sorry. We believed her. She acted like she had all the power, forms, meetings, dues. She even had letterhead." I shook my head, not in anger, but in the weary recognition of a tactic older than time. That's what people like her do. They talk loud. They wave fake rules around, and they hope no one ever questions them. But truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be seen. The woman nodded slowly, shame in her eyes like unshed tears, before walking off into the night with her husband's arm around her shoulders. I pushed open the cabin door, the familiar creak of the hinges greeting me like an old friend who'd been waiting patiently. The air inside still carried the smell of pine wood and the faint echo of laughter that wasn't mine, perfume and cologne lingering like ghosts of the invasion. I set down my bag, ran a hand along the kitchen table I'd built from reclaimed barnwood, the surface still bearing the faint ring from a coffee mug I'd left the morning I deployed, and whispered almost to myself, "Home. Finally." Out on the road, the last echoes of Karen's screams were swallowed by the dark, her kingdom of 1 week reduced to rubble in under an hour. She had played queen, throwing galas in a castle that wasn't hers, collecting tribute from subjects too lazy to check the deed. But tonight, her throne was a vinyl backseat with handcuff bruises, and her crown was a mugshot waiting to happen. And as I locked the door behind me, the deadbolt sliding home with a satisfying thunk, I knew this would be the story neighbors would whisper about for years. How the woman who pretended to rule everything was exposed by the very man she tried to erase. Justice wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was simple, sharp, and final, like a round chambered and fired true. In that quiet cabin by the lake, with the water lapping softly and the stars burning holes in the sky, I smiled, knowing one thing for certain. The land was mine. The truth was mine. And no one, not a screaming Karen with fake power, not a forged notice, not a single lie, could ever take it from me again. This is Istarusk the Jones Life Stories Istarusk, Rural Revenge, Real Justice, Real Inspiration. If this veteran's stand against entitlement fired you up, hit Istarusk Luck Istarusk, drop a comment with your own story of reclaiming what's yours, share with someone who needs to hear that truth always wins, and subscribe Istarusk for more episodes where the little guy doesn't just fight back. He uns Istarusk the battlefield. Because remember, the strongest revenge isn't destruction, it's reclamation. Take back your peace, your power, your home, one truth at a time. See you in the next story. Word count 10,012.